Welcome to Current Korea. Thanks for joining us. We see the lights, the glamour, the spectacle, but there's the darker side of the business, the so-called slave contracts. Ever wonder what it looks like? Well, we got a copy. Sort of. The notorious slave contracts were apparently so notorious that the South Korean's Fair Trade Commission stepped in, and starting in the early 2010s, the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism released standardized contracts for pop artists, including actors and pop artists. The standard contracts were further updated in 2018 and 2019, which are the copies we have today. There are 3 contracts we're interested in. We're only doing one today, starting with the trainee contract. We'll go over the youth addendum and the singer contract for artists who have already debuted next time. We've highlighted the more interesting items and we'll go over them together. The highlighted yellow will be for both parties, the red for the label, and the green for the trainee. We'll be going pretty quickly as I doubt no one wants to be read a legal contract in full. Let's get started. The purpose of this contract is on the premise that the planner and the trainee actively cooperate for mutual development. The purpose of this is to promote mutual development and benefits by faithfully participating in the training provided by the planner and striving for self-development. Good. They're at least starting off with mutual cooperation. Sounds good at least. Legally, there's nothing here since to argue against this point, you need to prove the other party wasn't faithful. The contract period shall not exceed 3 years. This is good. No more 10-year, 13-year contracts. The biggest slave contract point was actually changed back in 2010. The planners provide trainees with the training necessary to grow into pop culture artists. For example, acting, vocals, choreography. You can request the trainee to faithfully fulfill the trainee's obligations under this contract. Okay, the company supplies training and the trainees learn. The planner shall not request any conduct that infringes or is likely to infringe upon the trainee's privacy or personal rights and shall not demand unreasonable money or valuables. This one is reasonable but vague. For example, there are reports that cell phones are still checked, which would be an infringement on privacy. The trainee is not obliged to surrender their cell phones by contract, but realistically that means the person will not be continuing their training and will likely be released. But if you could prove that they infringed on your rights in court, it would be possible to terminate the contract without penalty. At least it's in here. The planner may provide appropriate treatment with the consent of the trainee if extreme depression is found in the trainee. This is good, something you see with members of groups who have already debuted, taking time off or mental health. But as a trainee, knowing you may fall behind, I'm not sure how many would actually benefit from this. Trainees must faithfully engage in the training activities provided by the planner and observe all matters related to the training activities. Okay. During the contract period, you must not unduly break or infringe on this contract, such as entering into a contract with a third party. I would hope not. Trainees must not engage in acts prohibited by law or social norms, taking or selling narcotics, sexual offenses, assault, gambling, drunk driving, etc. Yeah, totally understandable points here. You're making an investment, as long as they don't infringe on privacy. But definitely you would want good character. Trainees may present their opinions to the planner at any time and may request the planner to faithfully fulfill the planner's obligations under this contract. Okay, good to hear that feedback is actually written into the contract. A trainee may refuse if the planner makes an unreasonable request. I would hope so, but unfortunately that it actually has to be in the contract. The planner shall separately account for and manage the direct expenses for trainees' training activities and prepare separate accounting books. Okay. The scope of direct training expenses shall be determined by mutual agreement between the planner and the trainee. Okay again. The planner shall provide the trainees with the account details of the direct expenses for training activities. So each trainee knows how much the company has spent on them. Interesting. The planner shall in principle bear all expenses required for trainees' training activities. Direct training expenses may be deducted from a trainee's profits. This is fair. If they work while they're a trainee, they pay back. It doesn't specify the percentages, but okay. If a planner or trainee intentionally or neglectfully violates the terms of this contract, the other party requests the violator to rectify the violation by setting a grace period of 14 days. If the violation is not corrected within that period, the other party may cancel or terminate the contract. There's a video from a former Korean idol who now runs a YouTube channel and uploaded a video with a couple of K-pop lawyers present. She states that you need evidence to terminate contracts, such as if they are to provide trainers but the company doesn't, you log that until you have enough evidence, at which point you could try to terminate the contract with the proof. This contract will be terminated if it is unavoidable that the trainee becomes ill or injured and it is difficult to continue to perform the contents of this contract. However, this is not the case when the trainee causes the above circumstances for the purpose of terminating the contract. Okay, that's fair. The planner may terminate this contract if it is determined that the trainee has low growth potential as pop culture artists. We've seen these videos online, understandable, but that must be nerve-wracking to be judged every time. But then again, you'll get judged even harsher by the public once you debut, so... In the event that a planner or executives and employees affiliated with the planner have sexually assaulted a trainee, the trainee may terminate the contract. I seriously don't want to know how bad it must have been for this to explicitly be included. When a planner or trainee cancels or terminates the contract in accordance with Article 7, he or she may claim compensation for damages from the other party. In case the contract is canceled or terminated due to reasons attributable to the trainee, the damage to the planner shall be presumed to be the direct cost of training activities. In the event that a trainee intentionally violates the terms of the contract, penalty cannot exceed 50% of the direct cost of training activities. Okay, the last 3 points. The same YouTuber mentioned earlier says that, for the most part, if you work with the other party, there's a compromise, because the company doesn't want to waste time and money on someone who doesn't want to be there, and the trainee just wants out. But you can't purposely do something to break the contract. In that case, you may need to pay the money back. In the event of termination, the trainee shall not be liable for damages. Good, at least the kids who are fired don't have to pay anything back. The planner must notify trainees of whether to renew or conclude an exclusive contract 1 month before the end of this contract. In the event that the planning business operator fails to notify the pursuant, it shall be deemed that the contract has been terminated. Well, if you know your contract is up, but you don't hear anything, I think you would know. The planner and trainee shall not divulge the contents of this contract. Pretty standard, I would assume, and that's why we don't see an actual signed contract out in the open. All disputes arising from this contract shall be voluntarily resolved by the planner and trainee. Same things as before, you need to gain evidence to be able to get a contract terminated from a trainee's perspective. If the company doesn't provide the agreed upon training, you note that when you have a pattern of evidence, you can make your case. But as a trainee, you don't want to go to the next step, which is, if it is not resolved, you may apply for dispute mediation. This is the farthest you want to go, as this is the last stop for a relatively quick outcome. As trainees, you just want out at this point, and labels just want to not waste any more money and time. Mediation is just one judge who decides an outcome. In the event that a planner and the trainee do not apply for mediation, the resolution of disputes related to this contract shall be made by ordinary civil procedures. In other words, court, which both parties usually just want to avoid. Well, that highlights a typical contract a trainee would sign. That's it for today. Thanks for joining us. That's what's in the news for Current Korea.